Hello everyone, and welcome to the channel. This is 6-Path Weeb, and I'm hyped to have you here. Today, we're diving into a brand new fanfiction scenario. What if Naruko mastered the Flying Raijin technique early on? Get ready for an epic twist in the Naruto universe as we explore how this one change could reshape everything. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage used in my videos. All rights and credits go to their respective creators and copyright holders. Alright, let's jump right in. Let's start, guys. The sun had risen just 20 minutes ago, casting a gentle golden hue across the Hidden Leaf village. Shopkeepers were beginning to open their stands, preparing for the day's business and wondering how successful the day might be. Villagers were waking up or already moving through the streets, ready to embrace a new day filled with excitement and routine. The famous great stone faces of the Hokage were quietly admired by early risers. All seemed calm and peaceful in the village, at least, until a burst of joyful laughter echoed from the direction of the Hokage's tower. Down the street came Naruko Uzumaki, a lively young girl known for her boundless energy and creativity. She was sprinting with a wide grin across her face, her golden blonde hair bouncing with every step. Naruko wore her usual bright orange jumpsuit, accented with blue around the shoulders, a color choice that made her easy to spot. Behind her, several chunin were in pursuit, their backs covered in splashes of colorful paint. Naruko had just completed her most ambitious prank yet, right in the Hokage's office. With careful planning, she had set up paint cannons just 5 feet inside the door, triggered by cleverly hidden tripwires attached to the handle. When the third Hokage opened the door that morning, he was met with an unexpected burst of pink paint. Confused for only a moment, the Hokage looked around the room, then turned toward the sound of stifled laughter coming from his chair. As he spun it around, there sat Naruko, barely able to contain her giggles. "Wow. You might as well give me that hat and this chair, old man. I mean, if a little prank like this got you, maybe I should be Hokage already," she teased through her laughter, her 10-year-old voice full of playful mischief. The third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, took a deep breath and called out with authority, "Naruko Uzumaki. You are in serious trouble." "Oops," Naruko exclaimed as she leapt out of the chair and through the open window, still laughing. "After her. And make sure she's brought back safely," the Hokage instructed the chunin. The ninja inside the tower quickly gave chase, though some muttered complaints under their breath. Despite their personal opinions, they followed orders, knowing that Naruko, while mischievous, was still a child of the village. "As if they'll catch me," Naruko giggled as she landed gracefully and dashed through the gates leading away from the tower. She had prepared for this. Just ahead, she jumped over another tripwire she had set earlier, this one linked to even more paint cannons hidden above the archway. As one of the chunin triggered the trap, vibrant splashes of pink, yellow, and purple rained down upon them, leaving Naruko in fits of laughter once more. The chase continued through the village as Naruko, light on her feet and quick-witted, led the ninja on a winding journey through alleys and rooftops. One by one, the chunin gave up the chase. "I have better things to do. This is a waste of time." These were just some of the grumbles left behind as the pursuit dwindled. Eventually, Naruko found herself alone. The only problem, she had wandered into an unfamiliar part of the village. The sky had grown darker, and soon raindrops began to fall. "Oh no, I need to find my way back. I was hoping to grab some ramen at Ichiraku's," she mumbled, rubbing her head with a sheepish grin. After about 20 minutes of wandering, Naruko stumbled across an old, seemingly abandoned property. The entrance was flanked by tall trees, and a quiet path led toward a house nestled at the back of the lot. As the rain began to fall more steadily, she figured it would be smart to wait out the weather under shelter. She placed her hand on the gate, unaware of the faint glow from a seal that momentarily lit up beneath her touch. She closed the gate behind her and ran toward the house, reaching it just as the rain began to pour. Inside, Naruko flicked on a light, surprised that the place still had power. Curiosity got the better of her, and she wandered toward the kitchen in search of food. But something caught her eye, a portrait hanging above the fireplace. She gasped. It was a picture of the fourth Hokage, her idol, smiling with his arm around a beautiful woman with deep red hair and kind, dark blue eyes. The woman wore a sleeveless dark green dress over a high-collared white shirt. They both looked incredibly happy. This was the fourth Hokage's house? Amazing, Naruko whispered, eyes wide with wonder. "Wait. What if someone finds me here? I better get out of here before anyone notices." Just as she turned to leave, something near the fireplace drew her attention, a loose stone set into the floor. Though she knew she probably shouldn't linger, her curiosity was impossible to ignore. Gently, she lifted the stone and discovered a scroll hidden beneath it. Naruko hesitated. She knew it wasn't right to take things that didn't belong to her, but something about this scroll felt important. Without fully understanding why, she slipped it into the inner pocket of her jacket, safely protected from the rain. She quickly turned off the light, quietly exited the house, and closed the gate behind her. With the scroll hidden and the rain still falling, she began making her way toward Ichiraku's, trying to act as if it had been a normal day. She didn't even notice the small envelope that had rested just beneath the scroll, left behind and untouched. By the time Naruko arrived at Ichiraku Ramen, the scroll had momentarily slipped from her mind. "Hey, old man, 2 miso ramen, please," she called cheerfully as she stepped through the curtains into the warm, comforting aroma of the shop. "Sure thing, kid. I was wondering where you were. You're usually here earlier," replied Tucci, the kind and seasoned chef who owned the ramen stand. "Oh, well. I just kinda got caught in the rain, you know?" "Hey," Naruko laughed awkwardly, remembering how she had stumbled upon the 4th Hokage's old house and the mysterious scroll inside. She had a strong feeling it wasn't something she should talk about openly, especially considering the kind of trouble she might get into if anyone found out what she had discovered. "You mean after that prank you pulled at the Hokage Tower? I have to admit, it was pretty funny hearing that the Hokage got splashed with pink paint." "Ha ha ha," Tucci chuckled heartily. "Oh yeah. Some Chunin were chasing me after that too." "Ha ha." Naruko beamed, her grin wide and proud of her mischievous success. "Ha ha. I guess the more the merrier, huh, Naruko? Alright, here you go, dig in," Tucci said as he handed her the first steaming bowl of miso ramen. After happily finishing her meal, Naruko paid Tucci, thanked him, and headed back to her small apartment. Once inside, she turned on the lights, drew the curtains closed, and sat at the kitchen table. From her bag, she pulled out the scroll she had found and carefully unrolled it. Her eyes widened at the strange markings spread across it. She remembered learning, though only vaguely, that these were storage seals, a type of fuinjutsu. Unfortunately, she hadn't paid much attention during those lessons. She tried hard to recall how to activate them but came up short. Out of frustration, Naruko slapped her palm down on one of the seals, unknowingly channeling her chakra into it. Poof! In a puff of smoke, another scroll appeared. "Whoa! So that's how it works," she whispered, picking up the scroll, which was about the size of a summoning contract. She unrolled it and found an incredibly intricate formula. At the top, in bold calligraphy, were the words, "Flying Raijin Jutsu." Ugh! Why would the 4th Hokage create such a complicated jutsu? Seriously, how is anyone supposed to figure this out? She groaned, overwhelmed by the complex design. After a few minutes, Naruko calmed down and began to think more clearly. Maybe it was meant to be difficult. Maybe he didn't want just anyone to use his techniques. Well, I'll prove I can do it. I'll master this no matter what, believe it. 1 year later. A full year had passed since Naruko had discovered the 4th Hokage's scroll. Within the first month, she realized she couldn't even begin to understand the jutsu without first learning the meanings of the symbols. Since the librarian wouldn't allow her inside the library due to her being the 9-tailed fox's host, Naruko began sneaking in after hours to study in secret. Now, one late night, she sat at her kitchen table, the scroll open in front of her. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. It looks like this jutsu lets me teleport anywhere, as long as I've placed this special seal at my destination. This is incredible. Eager to test it out, Naruko carved the seal onto her floor about 5 feet from her front door using a kunai. She returned to the kitchen, carefully performed the hand signs, and softly whispered the jutsu name so she wouldn't wake her neighbors. Flying Raijin Jutsu. In a flash of golden light, Naruko vanished from the kitchen and reappeared right by her front door. Yes. It worked. She cheered, trying to jump for joy, but instead stumbled and fell to the floor with a soft thump. A wave of dizziness swept over her, a side effect she hadn't expected. Once the spinning stopped, Naruko slowly got to her feet and returned to the kitchen, determined to understand what had happened. After a few minutes of scanning the scroll, she found a small caution note. Caution, may cause dizziness and or nausea after the first 20+ uses. Guess I should have read that part first, she chuckled to herself. Still, I wonder why this jutsu was so important to the 4th Hokage. There must be more to it. Yawning, she rolled up the scroll and stood. Alright, that's enough for tonight. Time to rest up for the academy tomorrow. With a satisfied smile on her face, Naruko headed to bed, proud of how far she had come, and excited for what was still ahead. Beep. Beep. Crash. It was 6:30 the next morning. Naruko sat up with a groan, looking at the alarm clock she had just accidentally launched across the room. "Oh no, not again," she mumbled, climbing out of bed and heading over to her closet, where she kept a stash of spare alarm clocks. You see, Naruko had a habit of waking up and tossing her alarm clocks without thinking. To avoid constant trips to the store, she made sure to stock up. Whenever she did need to go buy a new one, the third Hokage would accompany her to make sure the shops treated her fairly. Naruko had always struggled with unfair treatment in the village. Many times, she had been overcharged for everyday things, even when the food was spoiled. Fortunately, the third Hokage eventually noticed what was happening, and things began to improve. Still, there were moments when vendors tried to get away with it, thinking no one would find out. Naruko never fully understood why people acted that way. Even before she started pulling harmless pranks for attention, other children weren't allowed to play with her. Deep down, she often felt left out and unappreciated, though she rarely showed it. After getting ready for the day, setting a new alarm clock, showering, eating breakfast, even if the milk was a bit too old, and brushing her teeth, Naruko grinned. Hee, I can't wait to show Iruka-sensei my new jutsu today, she said to herself. Then she paused. Wait a second, if I show this jutsu, people might think I took it without permission. Well, technically, I did. Still, if I demonstrate the Flying Raijin jutsu, I'll definitely get in trouble. Ugh, that's such a shame, I was really excited about it. On her way to the academy, Naruko noticed the familiar glances from some villagers, looks filled with discomfort or disapproval, but she kept walking, doing her best to ignore them. Though she had gotten used to it over time, it still made her uncomfortable. By the time she was 5 years old, Naruko had clearly sensed how others treated her differently. Some people looked past her like she wasn't even there. It was during one of her conversations with the third Hokage around that time that Naruko discovered her dream of becoming Hokage. Flashback. Hey, old man? The 5-year-old Naruko asked. What is it, Naruko? The third Hokage replied kindly. How come everyone bows to you and treats you so nicely? That's a great question, Naruko. It's because I'm the Hokage. What's a Hokage? You know what a ninja is, right? He asked. Naruko nodded. Well, the Hokage is the most skilled and trusted ninja in the village. They lead and protect everyone here, the Hokage explained. Oh. Wait, they? So a girl can be Hokage too? There hasn't been a female Hokage yet, he said with a smile, but it's absolutely possible. Really? Why hasn't it happened yet? In all my years, I've seen many talented kunoichi, female ninja, who were stronger than their male counterparts. It's not about being a boy or a girl. It's about your heart, your strength, and your dedication. The Hokage thought of his memories, including his time with Tsunade, one of the strongest kunoichi he had ever known. Wow. I'm not sure I believe that, Naruko replied thoughtfully. The Hokage chuckled warmly. After a few moments of quiet, Naruko's eyes lit up. I've decided. She announced. The Hokage asked curiously. I'm going to become the greatest Hokage this village has ever seen. Then everyone will have to recognize me and treat me with respect. Believe it. The Hokage looked at her for a long moment, then smiled. Well then, we'd better get you enrolled in the academy. The academy? It's a school where young ninja learn and grow alongside others their age. It's where future leaders and Hokage begin their journey. Really? That means I could make friends and we could train together. But I'm definitely going to be the one who becomes Hokage. Naruko cheered, full of excitement and determination. You'll be turning 6 soon, so you'll start this upcoming year. Wahoo! Naruko shouted, jumping up in pure joy. Naruko finally arrived at the Ninja Academy after a brief moment lost in thought. She had high hopes about making friends, but things didn't turn out quite as she imagined. On her first day, Naruko met a few of her classmates, and at first, everything seemed to be going well. They laughed together during lessons and got along. But the cheerful mood didn't last. When the school day ended, and families came to pick up their children, Naruko stood alone. As other parents spotted her, they quickly ushered their kids away, whispering to them not to speak to that girl. Their tone was dismissive, as if the idea of being near Naruko left a bad taste in their mouths. When asked why, the adults offered no explanation beyond a firm, because I said so. It was frustrating and confusing, especially for a young child trying to find her place. Occasionally, there were small moments that made things a bit better. Like during the big race for candy, a weekend event organized by Kiba Inuzuka. Anyone could join, and the prize was a giant bag filled with sweets contributed by the racers. For Naruko, it wasn't really about the candy, it was about the excitement of the race and the sense of belonging. Or those moments when class dragged on and she, along with Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akimichi, and Kiba, would try to sneak out, causing a bit of harmless trouble for their teachers, Iruka and Mizuki. Still, Naruko wasn't sure if she could truly call them friends. She had never really experienced friendship before, so everything felt uncertain. Even Sasuke Uchiha, someone who was also on her own in many ways, felt out of reach. While Sasuke had experienced a significant loss early in life, Naruko had lived with a deep loneliness for as long as she could remember. Naruko had wanted to talk to her but couldn't explain the hesitation she felt. Sasuke always had the highest marks, while Naruko struggled to keep up. So instead of giving up, Naruko decided to make Sasuke her rival, to motivate herself to work harder, to become someone strong and capable. But no matter how hard she tried, it always seemed like Sasuke was a step ahead. As Naruko walked into the classroom that day, she did what she always did, looked around for her crush, Sakura Haruno. Sakura was a little taller than Naruko, with long pink hair that reached just above her waist. She wore a red training dress with black shorts underneath and her usual blue sandals. Every day, Naruko would walk in, find Sakura, and bravely ask her out. And every day, she received the same loud, embarrassed rejection. Today was no exception. Naruko spotted Sakura trying to sit next to Sasuke and approached her. "Hey Sakura, would you?" "No. Just go away. I told you, I'm not interested," Sakura snapped before Naruko could even finish. Stung by the rejection but trying not to show it, Naruko quietly made her way to a seat a few rows behind and to the side. As she sat down, she thought she heard a quiet eep, but dismissed it. Next to her sat Hinata Hyuga, a girl with pale lavender eyes, dressed in navy blue pants that reached mid-calf, a warm beige jacket with the Hyuga crest on the shoulders, and matching sandals. Hinata was from a noble clan and the heir to their traditions, but despite that, she was very shy and often doubted herself. Growing up, she faced high expectations in everything: training, manners, and presentation. Sometimes, the pressure made her feel overwhelmed, especially when compared to others in her family like her cousin Neji, who would often remind her of how much more she had to prove. Since joining the academy, Hinata had quietly admired Naruko. Over time, she noticed that while Naruko was loud and energetic in public, there were moments, when she thought no one was looking, where her loneliness showed. Hinata felt a deep empathy for her and wished she could express her feelings. But she worried that Naruko might think she was strange for watching from afar. Today, as fate would have it, Naruko happened to sit right next to her. Hinata noticed that she looked a little down and, summoning all her courage, decided to speak up. "You and Naruko?" Hinata said softly, proud that she managed to say anything at all. "Oh hey, Hinata. What's up?" Naruko replied, not even realizing who she'd sat beside. "You are you okay? I mean, after what Sakura said?" "Huh? Oh. Yeah, I'm fine. Why do you ask?" "And no reason. I'm sorry I brought it up," Hinata murmured, surprised that Naruko responded kindly. "It's okay," Naruko said with a small, genuine smile. She appreciated that someone had cared enough to ask. Most classmates wouldn't have even noticed. Curious, Naruko tilted her head slightly. "Hey, Hinata?" "Why yes?" Hinata blinked, surprised that Naruko was still talking to her. "I was just wondering." Hinata began, a soft blush coloring her cheeks. "Why don't you try sitting next to Sasuke? I mean, all the other girls seem to like him." Hinata felt a twinge of disappointment. She had quietly hoped that Naruko might ask to sit with her instead, but she couldn't really be upset about it. Gathering herself, she replied gently, "Well. I don't really like Sasuke that way." Her voice was barely above a whisper, hoping not to draw the attention of the other girls in class. "Huh? Really? Is there someone you do like?" Naruko asked, her tone full of genuine curiosity. Now Hinata was truly flustered. Her face turned even redder as her heart began to race. This is it. My chance to tell Naruko how I feel. But what if she thinks I'm strange? What if she doesn't feel the same? I like why. Before Hinata could finish, the classroom door opened. In stepped Iruka Umino and Mizuki. Iruka was of average build, around 5 feet 8 inches, with brown hair and eyes, a small scar across the bridge of his nose. He wore the standard dark blue long-sleeved ninja attire and matching pants, the Leaf Village green flak jacket over it, and his forehead protector bearing the leaf symbol. Mizuki had shoulder-length silver hair and wore a similar outfit, though his sleeves were not rolled up, and he wore his headband like a bandana. Hinata let out a quiet sigh of relief from the interruption, though part of her silently scolded herself for not being brave enough to tell Naruko how she felt. "Good morning, class. Let's all take our seats so we can begin today's lesson," Iruka announced as he and Mizuki made their way to the front of the room. For Naruko, the day unfolded as usual. Iruka and Mizuki arrived, class began, and the usual cycle of lessons, lunch at Ichiraku's, more lessons, and the end of the day played out. However, this time, Naruko intentionally stayed behind in the classroom at lunch. She had a secret plan. Naruko wanted to place a small seal for the Flying Raijin jutsu somewhere hidden in the classroom. She figured this would help her arrive at the academy quickly each morning, avoiding the uncomfortable stares she often received on her way from home. Naruko intended to test the jutsu early the next morning, before the building opened. Her only concern was using it at the end of the school day without being noticed, but she planned to stay cautious and make sure she wasn't being followed. After class, Naruko slipped quietly behind the building, unknowingly followed by Hinata. She climbed into a tall, leafy tree and, confident she was out of sight, performed the necessary hand signs, and vanished. Back at home, Naruko stumbled slightly, a wave of dizziness washing over her. "Ugh, I hope this dizzy feeling goes away soon. It always makes me feel so queasy," she muttered before putting away her school supplies and heading out to her favorite ramen shop, Ichiraku's. She had considered placing a seal there as well, but the shop was far too public for such a thing. Meanwhile, Hinata was left stunned. She had used her Byakugan after Naruko entered the tree, careful to remain undetected. How did she do that? I definitely saw her performing hand signs, but I've never seen a jutsu like that before. Where did she go? Knowing Naruko's routine, Ichiraku's after school before training, then back again for dinner, Hinata headed there. Sure enough, Naruko was already seated inside. Hinata used her Byakugan again to peek in. She doesn't have her school supplies. Did she go home before coming here? Remembering she had a private gentle fist training session with her father, Hinata turned and headed home, still full of questions. Over the next few weeks, Naruko was always the first to arrive at school. Her classmates were confused at first, but quickly went back to their usual routine, mostly ignoring her, everyone except Hinata, who was growing more curious with each passing day. Hinata noticed that after training, Naruko would always walk to Ichiraku's and then vanish, presumably heading home. She figured Naruko had her reasons, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't figure out how she was doing it. Still, she was determined to find out. Naruko herself was beginning to question how the jutsu was really meant to be used. During one particular lesson, her attention wandered, even though today's topic involved the legendary fourth Hokage, sometimes called the Yellow Flash. Once the classroom was empty, and Mizuki had already left early for a medical appointment, Naruko approached Iruka. "Iruka-sensei?" she asked nervously. "Yes, Naruko?" After hesitating a moment, she asked, "Why was the fourth Hokage called the Yellow Flash?" Iruka let out a soft sigh. "You really should pay more attention in class. He earned that name because he could instantly move from one place to another using a teleportation jutsu. When he used it, there was a bright yellow flash, hence, the name." From the hallway, Hinata gasped softly. She had lingered behind and quietly closed the door after everyone left, realizing Naruko hadn't come out yet. As she listened, everything suddenly clicked. That's it. That's how Naruko has been doing it. She somehow learned the fourth Hokage's Flying Raijin jutsu. And she's using it flawlessly. What was the name of the jutsu she used, and how did she use it during missions? Naruko asked curiously. It was called the Flying Raijin jutsu. Iruka began. Naruko could barely contain her surprise upon hearing that. And it involved an advanced sealing technique. She used it in the field by throwing special tri-pronged kunai, each marked with a unique seal. Whether in open terrain or forested areas, she would strategically place the kunai around her surroundings. Then, in an instant, she could teleport to the location of any one of them, taking her opponent by surprise. The technique was so effective, she could overcome even highly skilled opponents with minimal effort. She could also apply the seal during close-range combat by making direct contact. Iruka continued, because of this ability, she was given a high-ranking status in mission records, with a recommendation for others to avoid direct confrontation. Naruko was in awe. She hadn't even realized it was possible to place a seal on an object, or a person, and use it in such a powerful way. The thought of mastering a technique like that filled her with determination. So until I gain more recognition, Naruko said thoughtfully, I should only use the Flying Raijin jutsu in critical situations during missions. Exactly, Iruka nodded. Wow, that has to be one of the most amazing jutsu ever. Hee, Naruko giggled, her enthusiasm bubbling over. Ha, yeah, I suppose it is, Iruka replied with a smile, not catching the full depth of what Naruko might be thinking. Anyway, how about we go grab a bite at Ichiraku's? My treat. Yes. That's awesome. Naruko cheered, thrilled at the thought of getting her favorite ramen. Just outside the room, Hinata quietly stepped away from the door, her eyes wide with wonder. She hadn't expected to discover Naruko's incredible secret technique and hurried home, deep in thought about everything she had just learned. A few months had quietly passed since Hinata had discovered that Naruko had mastered the Flying Raijin jutsu. At first, Hinata didn't know how to respond. Naruko was never the type to keep exciting things to herself, especially something that could elevate her skills as a shinobi. But in time, Hinata reasoned that Naruko must have had a purpose for staying silent, so she decided to respect that and kept the knowledge to herself, just as Naruko had. Still, Hinata couldn't help but wonder how Naruko had even learned the technique. According to Iruka-sensei, the Flying Raijin jutsu had been lost ever since the fourth Hokage's passing. Many believed it was hidden somewhere in his home, but after extensive searching, no trace of it was found. The third Hokage eventually concluded that the fourth must have hidden it somewhere safe, ensuring it wouldn't end up in the wrong hands. Despite that, Hinata's curiosity persisted. She resolved to speak with Naruko directly and learn how she came across the technique, and why she felt the need to keep it a secret. The next morning, Hinata was gently woken by a member of the Hyuga clan's branch house. The Hyuga clan was structured into two families, the main house, which led the clan, and the branch house, whose role was to support and protect the main house. Her father, Hyashi, as the head of the clan, had final say over all matters. Personally, Hinata found the division difficult. She believed it created unnecessary tension within the family. With her kind nature, she often struggled with the expectations placed upon her, and even her own father sometimes saw her as lacking strength. After dressing for the day's activities, starting with training and followed by studying her clan's traditions, Hinata would have the rest of her Saturday free. It seemed like the perfect opportunity to find Naruko and ask about the secret jutsu. Hinata wore a coordinated outfit of dark brown pants and a matching top, layered over a mesh undershirt. As she made her way through the Hyuga estate, she came across her younger sister, Hanabi, who was dressed similarly. Hanabi had long brown hair flowing to her waist, while Hinata's hair was dark blue, cut short and styled with soft bangs. Good morning, sister, Hinata said as she passed her in the hallway. Morning, Hanabi replied, her tone calm but distant. Hinata gave a small sigh. Though they were sisters, their bond wasn't especially strong. Some members of the main house believed Hanabi was better suited to become the heir, due to Hinata's gentle demeanor and her slower progress in mastering the clan's gentle fist technique. Hanabi, by contrast, resembled their father more, disciplined, naturally skilled, and focused. Arriving at the dojo, Hinata stepped into the center of the room and greeted her father with a respectful bow. Good morning, father. I'm ready for today's training, she said, with only the slightest nervous tremble in her voice. Morning. Let's begin, Hyashi responded. Training lasted for about 2 hours. Over that time, Hyashi noticed Hinata seemed distracted, something he had picked up on for a while now. Her usual growth in skill had started to decline. Rather than letting his frustration build, he decided to conclude the session early. That's enough for today, he said, his expression unreadable but tinged with disappointment. Panting slightly, Hinata bowed. Why yes, father, she said, noticing his expression as she turned to leave. But before she could walk away, his voice stopped her. Hinata, I've noticed your focus has been lacking these past few months, and your progress has slowed. What's been troubling you? Hyashi asked. Hinata was caught off guard. She had noticed her own distraction too, her thoughts constantly returning to Naruko and her hidden technique. But she wasn't ready to reveal what she knew. She had promised herself she would understand the full truth first. So, she braced herself, preparing to give an answer she hoped would end the conversation. I think it's because I'm still adjusting to the changes my body is going through, she answered quickly, her cheeks turning a light shade of pink from embarrassment. I see, Hyashi replied, a bit awkwardly. Not one to discuss such topics, he accepted the explanation with a nod. Make sure you adapt quickly so you can return to your previous rate of progress. You are dismissed. Yes, father, Hinata said with a bow, both relieved and a little flustered that her explanation had worked. Once Hinata had bathed and finished her meal, she set out to find Naruko. Her current determination to uncover why Naruko was keeping one of the most powerful jutsu a secret from everyone made her previous resolve seem mild in comparison. She checked Ichiraku Ramen, the training field by the academy, since the other fields were reserved for official ninja, and even Naruko's apartment. With those locations ruled out, she realized there was only one other place Naruko might be, the top of the Hokage monument, above the fourth Hokage's head. Sure enough, when she reached the top, there Naruko was. Hinata knew that Naruko usually came here when she was feeling down. Hinata stepped closer, hoping to talk to her, but the nearer she got, the more her confidence wavered, not because she was unsure, but because it didn't feel right to question someone when they were feeling low. When she was about 15 feet away, she decided to wait for another time, thinking it would be better to talk when Naruko was in a lighter mood. But as she began to quietly retreat, her heel caught on a small rock, causing her to stumble and land gently on the ground. She hoped Naruko hadn't noticed, but luck wasn't on her side. Naruko had indeed heard the noise. Turning around, she was surprised to see Hinata sitting there with a startled look on her face. "Hey, Hinata. What are you doing here?" Naruko asked.
I just wanted to ask why you something, but you seemed
upset, so it can wait, Hinata replied, hoping that would be the end of it. Oh, Naruko said softly, looking back down with the same quiet expression she had before. I'll be going now, Hinata added, getting up to leave. Wait, Hinata. I mean, if you'd like to stay, I wouldn't mind the company. You don't have to, though, Naruko said gently, genuinely wondering what Hinata wanted to talk about. Oh okay, and Naruko, Hinata replied, surprised and touched that Naruko wanted her there. Naruko turned back to face the village from the cliff. Hinata walked over slowly and sat down about 5 feet away from her, too shy to get any closer. They sat in silence for about 10 minutes. Naruko was growing a little impatient and was about to ask Hinata what she wanted to know when. So? Why were you upset earlier? Hinata asked before Naruko could speak. Truthfully, she was also starting to feel a bit uncomfortable with the silence. Naruko looked a little surprised. Oh. I just saw some kids our age spending time with their families, that's all. How come? What about why your family? Hinata asked. She had never seen Naruko's parents and always assumed they were away on long missions.
I don't have any, Naruko said softly.
What did you say? Hinata asked, not catching her words. I said I don't have any, Naruko repeated, her voice a little clearer this time. Gasp, but what about your apartment? Hinata asked, now speaking without hesitation. It confused her, how could Naruko live alone? I was asked to leave the orphanage when I was younger. I'm not sure why, Naruko said, her voice trembling just slightly. Sorry. I didn't know, Hinata said gently. It's okay, Hinata. It's not your fault. Do you know who they were? Hinata asked softly. No. The third Hokage told me I was found in the forest outside the village after the Nine Tails incident over 11 years ago. Since then, he's helped support me with living expenses. Oh, Hinata murmured, unsure what else to say. A few quiet moments passed. Then, feeling a surprising urge to share her own story, Hinata spoke. My mother passed away when I was very young. Just a few months after my little sister Hanabi was born. Gasp, really? I'm sorry, Naruko said, her eyes filled with empathy. It's okay, Naruko. Just like you said, it's not your fault, Hinata replied, offering a small smile. Yeah. I guess you're right, Naruko said, smiling a little as well. So, do you and your sister get along? Hinata sighed gently. And not really. It's kind of the same with my father. After my mother passed, he became more distant, and Hanabi seems to follow his lead. Naruko's smile faded. Oh. I was just wondering what it might be like to have siblings, that's all. I see, Hinata said, understanding the weight behind Naruko's words. A few more minutes passed, and Naruko decided it was time to find out what Hinata had originally come to ask her. She knew it couldn't have been just because she seemed upset earlier, so she figured she might as well ask. So, Hinata, what did you want to ask me in the first place? Huh? Hinata blinked, clearly having forgotten why she came looking for Naruko to begin with. What did you want to ask me when you got here? Naruko asked again. Oh,
Well, I was wondering how you discovered the Flying Raijin jutsu?
Hinata asked softly. What? How did you know about that? Naruko gasped, genuinely surprised that Hinata had somehow found out her secret.
I saw you use it a few weeks ago.
Before you asked Iruka-sensei about the fourth Hokage, Hinata explained, her voice barely above a whisper. What? But how? I made sure no one saw me, Naruko said, clearly puzzled. I used my Byakugan, Hinata admitted. I saw you up in a tree, and then you just vanished. I think it was the first time you tried it. During class. Byakugan? Naruko tilted her head. What's that? It's my clan's special ability, Hinata replied. I can see through solid objects and a lot of other things. That's so cool, Naruko said with a big smile. Wait, Hinata, you haven't told anyone, right? She suddenly became nervous. Without realizing it, she gently held Hinata by the shoulders. Please say you didn't tell anyone. And no. I kept it to myself. I promise. You're the only one who knows, Hinata said quickly, surprised by how close Naruko was now. Naruko let out a relieved sigh. Could you please keep it that way? I might get in trouble if someone finds out I found the scroll. I'll do anything to keep it quiet. Now, if Hinata were like the others who admired Naruko from afar, she might have used this moment to ask for something in return. But Hinata wasn't like that. She had considered it for a moment, sure, but deep down, she could never take advantage of Naruko like that. It's okay, Naruko. I won't tell anyone. I promise. Really? Naruko asked, her eyes lighting up. Hinata nodded. Really? Thanks, Hinata. If anyone found out, things could get a little complicated, Naruko said as she finally let go and stepped back. No problem. But how did you find the jutsu? Hinata asked, happy they were still talking, even if she missed the closeness from a moment ago. Oh. Remember when I got paint all over the Hokage monument? Hinata nodded slowly. Well, while I was running away from a couple of chunin, I ended up near an old, abandoned house. It looked like rain was coming, so I went inside to find some shelter. Naruko continued, I was looking around and saw a portrait of the fourth Hokage. I was about to leave, thinking I might get in trouble if I stayed too long, but then I noticed a loose brick by the fireplace. I pulled it out, and there was a scroll hidden inside. I don't know why, but I took it, put the brick back, and headed home. What happened next? Hinata asked, completely invested now. I looked through the scroll and tried to practice what was written in it. The first technique I tried was the Flying Raijin jutsu. I've been working on it ever since, and just a few months ago, I finally got it to work. Hinata listened in awe. It was almost unbelievable. Naruko, who struggled with even basic techniques at times, had managed to master an advanced, high-level jutsu all on her own. But Hinata had seen her use it, there was no doubt it was real. They sat there together for what felt like hours, just enjoying each other's company. About an hour before sunset, Hinata gathered her courage to ask something else that had been on her mind. You Naruko? Yeah, Hinata? She replied gently. Why does everyone treat you so differently? Hinata asked quietly. Naruko paused, then answered with a small shrug. I'm not really sure. It's been that way for as long as I can remember. I asked the Hokage once, but he said he'd tell me when I'm older. He didn't explain much more than that. I see. Well, I should head home now, Naruko. I'll see you at school tomorrow, Hinata said with a shy smile. All right. And thanks again for keeping my secret, Naruko said sincerely. Hinata gave a small nod and left with a lightness in her step, happy not just for the answers she got, but for the time she spent getting to know Naruko better. A few minutes later, Naruko's stomach growled loudly. Oops, ha. I totally forgot, I haven't eaten since breakfast. With a big grin and a much better mood than earlier in the day, Naruko made her way to Ichiraku's for a warm bowl of ramen. It was April 14th. Tomorrow was the graduation exam, and Naruko was preparing for her third attempt at graduating. You'd think that she would be in class to make sure she would finally pass this time around, right? Wrong. There was a commotion at the Hokage's tower. Instead of being in class, Naruko had decided to paint the faces of the Hokage on the Hokage monument. Naruko had started wearing green goggles shortly after a conversation with Hinata. Villagers could be heard shouting, "Hey, get down from there you troublemaker. And how dare you do that to the great Hokage faces." These were just a few of the remarks made. The third Hokage was currently being informed, and wasn't too happy to hear that Naruko was once again involved in a prank. Meanwhile, Naruko was having fun, responding, "Ah ha 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 ha. You just don't have the guts to do what I did. Ha 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 ha." Just then, Iruka appeared, using his big demon head jutsu and shouted, "Just what do you think you're doing, Naruko? You're supposed to be in class." Yikes. Iruka-sensei, I better get out of here, Naruko exclaimed, before quickly running away. Naruko managed to lose Iruka by turning a corner and using a camouflage tarp. After the Chunin ran past, thinking it was safe to come out, Naruko peeked out and laughed, "Ha ha, they'll never catch me." "Oh, really, Naruko?" Iruka said, appearing out of nowhere, much to Naruko's surprise. "Ah. Where did you come from?" Naruko asked, jumping nearly 6 feet in the air. Back in the classroom, Iruka had Naruko tied up and sitting on the floor in front of the class. "Tomorrow is the graduation exam, and you've already failed twice. You shouldn't have been out causing trouble. You should have been in class," Iruka scolded in front of the whole class. Yeah, whatever," Naruko replied nonchalantly. "Alright, Naruko, if that's the way you want it," Iruka said before turning to the class. "Alright, everyone, we're having an exam review on the transformation jutsu. Everyone, line up and transform perfectly into me." "Ugh." The class groaned, except for Naruko. Once everyone was lined up, Naruko was released from her bindings and took her place in line. "This is such a waste of time, Naruko. I could be taking a nap right now," Shikamaru muttered. Shikamaru, a laid-back boy with black hair styled in a spiky ponytail, wore brown pants, a mesh shirt, and a gray short-sleeved jacket with blue circles on the shoulders. "Yeah, we always pay for your mistakes, you idiot," Ino added. Ino, with platinum blonde hair tied in a ponytail, wore a purple midriff top and skirt with slits up the sides, paired with white bandages underneath and sleeves that extended from her wrists to her upper biceps. "Like I care," Naruko said, unbothered as it was her turn to perform the transformation jutsu. Naruko formed the ram hand sign and said, "Transform." However, instead of turning into Iruka, Naruko transformed into a beautiful young girl with long blonde pigtails, completely naked. Iruka, shocked, was sent flying backward with a massive nosebleed. Naruko quickly cancelled the jutsu and laughed. "Ah ha ha ha. I call that my sexy jutsu. How do you like that? Cut the silly tricks, Naruko. This is your last warning," Iruka yelled as he stood up, now having tissue stuffed up his nostrils to stop the nosebleed. Later, Iruka stood atop the Hokage monument, watching Naruko scrub the paint off the Hokage faces. "You're not going anywhere until all the paint is gone," Iruka said firmly. "Like it matters, it's not like anyone is waiting for me at home," Naruko replied, her voice laced with sadness. Iruka, understanding the feeling of growing up without parents, had lost his own parents during the Nine Tails attack when he was still at the academy. His heart softened. "Hey, Naruko," he said. Naruko looked up, her face full of frustration. "How about after you get this cleaned up, I treat you to some ramen, okay?" Naruko's face brightened instantly. "Are you serious? Now that's some serious motivation, hee hee." Later that evening, at Ichiraku Ramen, Iruka asked Naruko why she had painted the Hokage faces. Naruko smiled and explained that she wanted to surpass all of them and become the greatest Hokage ever, gaining everyone's recognition and respect. Naruko was currently in a clearing, diligently practicing with the forbidden scroll of sealing to master the shadow clone jutsu, all in hopes of passing the so-called extra credit exam, as Mizuki had called it. You see, Naruko had once again failed the graduation exam, just like the previous 2 attempts, because the test focused on the basic clone jutsu, which, unfortunately, was one of Naruko's weakest techniques. After the exam, Mizuki had approached her with an offer for an extra credit exam. All Naruko had to do was sneak into the Hokage Tower and retrieve the scroll she now carried. She almost got caught by the 3rd Hokage, but with a quick use of the sexy jutsu, Naruko managed to escape just long enough to make her getaway. While Naruko trained, Mizuki spread the word that she had taken the forbidden scroll of sealing. The 3rd Hokage quickly gathered all available Chunin, including Iruka and Mizuki, and ordered, "I want all of you to search for Naruko. Do not harm her and bring her back here." Dismissed. Back in the clearing, hours had passed, and Naruko was panting with the scroll tied to her back. A shadow suddenly loomed over her. "There you are. What in the world were you thinking, Naruko?" Iruka yelled as he found her, noticing that she had been training very hard. "Oh hey, Iruka-sensei," Naruko said casually, not paying much attention to Iruka's question. What have you been doing with that scroll all the way out here, Naruko? Iruka asked. Mizuki-sensei told me about this place. He said if I could master one jutsu from this scroll before anyone found me, I could become a Genin, Naruko replied. Iruka realized that Mizuki had tricked Naruko, and sensing danger, he shoved Naruko out of the way as a barrage of kunai came their direction. Iruka managed to avoid being hit in any critical spots, but he was still badly injured. Ha ha ha, you reacted quickly there, didn't you, Iruka? Mizuki's voice echoed as he appeared from a tree branch on the tree line. Why, Mizuki? Iruka asked, confused and hurt. Why did Mizuki-sensei attack us, Naruko? Naruko asked, bewildered by the turn of events. Naruko, give me the scroll. Iruka just wants it for himself, don't trust him, Mizuki shouted. No. Don't listen to him, Naruko. Just take the scroll and run to Lord Hokage. I'll hold off Mizuki, Iruka said, trying to protect Naruko and the scroll.
I don't know who to trust, Naruko murmured, torn between the two.
Seeing that he wasn't getting the scroll from Naruko, Mizuki decided to reveal something to her. Naruko, haven't you ever wanted to know why the village has always treated you so poorly? Why Iruka doesn't seem to like you? Naruko was taken aback. She had always wondered why, and now she was about to hear the truth. She waited for Mizuki to continue. No. Mizuki, that's forbidden, Iruka yelled, trying to stop him, but Mizuki ignored him. Ha ha ha, it's because of the nine-tailed fox sealed inside of you. You are the nine tails that attacked this village and caused the destruction that left Iruka an orphan. Naruko stood frozen, shocked by this revelation. The weight of Mizuki's words hung heavily in the air. It all makes sense now. The hateful stares, the demon remarks, overpricing everything for me. It all makes perfect sense now, Naruko thought, after Mizuki revealed the truth about Naruko and her connection to the nine tails. So you see, Naruko, no one cares about you. Not even your Iruka-sensei. Now face the consequences, Demon Fox, Mizuki yelled as he took one of the giant shuriken from his back and threw it at Naruko. Naruko, get down, yelled Iruka as he jumped in between Naruko and the giant shuriken. Why? Naruko asked as she saw Iruka above her, after Iruka had taken the giant shuriken in his back, just missing his spinal column where the red swirl was on Iruka's flak jacket. It's because, like you, I had grown up without parents. It seemed like people didn't care that I was alone, so I became the class clown, let my grades drop because of it. I'm sorry, Naruko, Iruka explained. Naruko, I need you to run, don't let Mizuki have that scroll, Iruka whispered, so Mizuki couldn't hear. Naruko did as told and ran, although she didn't know where, as she couldn't think straight after being told the truth. Mizuki had jumped from the tree to the ground about 20 feet behind Iruka. You know, once she makes up her mind, there's no stopping her. She's going to use the scroll and get revenge on this village for all that they put her through, said Mizuki. No. Naruko isn't like that, Iruka said, standing up after pulling the shuriken from his back and throwing it at Mizuki, who dodged with little difficulty. Nice try. But it's pointless to fight me right now. I'll take care of you after I'm done with the girl, Mizuki claimed, as he disappeared with a Shunshine Jutsu. Mizuki has a big mouth. He has made Naruko feel worse than ever now, and his claim may be true. For both Naruko's and the village's sake, I hope it's not, said the third Hokage to himself as he watched Naruko hop from tree to tree in his crystal ball. Naruko, we need to get to Lord Hokage. Give me the scroll, said Iruka as he caught up to Naruko. The next thing he knew, he was heading straight to the ground, due to Naruko ramming into him. Oh! How did you know? How did you know, poof, that I wasn't Iruka? Asked Mizuki, who was disguised as Iruka. Because, poof, I'm Iruka, Iruka said, disguised as Naruko. Not bad, Iruka. But why do you insist on protecting her? She's the demon that caused so much trouble for you. You know she'll use the scroll to get revenge, Mizuki stated, frustrated with Iruka at this point. That's true, Iruka said. So it's true. Iruka-sensei doesn't care about me. No one does, Naruko thought, before hearing everything Iruka had to say. That is what the Nine Tails would do, but that's not what Naruko would do. Naruko gasped. Sure, she's clumsy, but she works hard. She tries desperately to fit in, but she never got a fair chance. Either way, Naruko is a very precious student and a member of the village hidden in the leaves. Iruka proclaimed. Then I'll just take you out first, then, Iruka, Mizuki said as he grabbed his last giant shuriken and prepared to throw it. Iruka knew he didn't have the energy to dodge it, so he closed his eyes to accept what might come next. Mizuki just happened to blink just before throwing it, so he didn't see any of what happened next. The next thing he knew, Mizuki took a hit and was sent flying backward, with his shuriken flying somewhere behind him into the trees. Naruko got up and strapped the giant scroll back onto her back, as she had taken it off earlier to rest. Then, without thinking, she performed the Flying Raijin jutsu. It just so happened that when she performed the jutsu, both Mizuki's and Iruka's eyes were closed. So, Naruko appeared in front of Iruka and charged forward, striking Mizuki just as he opened his eyes. "Ugh! You damn demon," Mizuki said as he stood up. "If you ever lay a hand on my sensei, I'll stop you," Naruko said, now having the scroll at her side. "Ha, bring it, nine-tailed fox. I'll take you out in one shot," Mizuki declared. "Bring it. Anything you dish out, I'll return it 1,000-fold, declared Naruko as she made a cross-hand sign. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. The clearing was filled with 1,000 Narukos. All the Narukos then attacked Mizuki, who was frozen with fear. Meanwhile, Iruka was thinking. Incredible, those aren't just illusions. They're solid clones. Naruko has mastered an incredibly high-level jutsu. The third Hokage was astounded by what he had just witnessed. He had seen Naruko perform two incredibly advanced jutsu. First, the Flying Raijin jutsu, and then the multi-shadow clone jutsu. It seemed impossible, but he had just seen it with his own eyes. Now, he needed to understand how Naruko had learned the first jutsu. "Oops, I think I went a little overboard," Naruko said, as her clones dispersed. "Hey Naruko, come here a minute and close your eyes," Iruka instructed. Naruko followed his command and felt Iruka remove his goggles, then place something gently on her forehead. "Iruka-sensei, can I open my eyes now?" Naruko asked, growing a little impatient. "All right, now," Iruka said, as Naruko opened her eyes. She saw Iruka holding up his goggles. "Congratulations, you graduate," Iruka said, with pride in his voice. "Wahoo!" Naruko cheered, jumping onto Iruka, forgetting he was still recovering from his injuries. "Naruko, I was planning on explaining to you that things would be very different now that you're a ninja, but I guess that can wait. After ramen, of course," Iruka thought. "Come on Naruko, let's get the scroll back to Lord Hokage, alright?" Iruka suggested, eager to get to the hospital to tend to his wounds. "Alright, Iruka-sensei, but what about him?" Naruko asked. "We'll handle the traitor," an Anbu member said, as a squad of 4 revealed themselves. "Lord Hokage explained the situation and your location. We're here to take the traitor to Anbu headquarters," the Anbu agent with purple hair added. "I understand. Then we'll head straight to the Hokage's office with the scroll," Iruka responded. The Anbu members nodded, allowing them to proceed. Once in the Hokage's office, Iruka began his report, detailing how Mizuki had told him that the scroll had been stolen, how he discovered that Mizuki was the mastermind behind the theft, and the ensuing battle between Mizuki and Naruko, where Naruko used the shadow clone jutsu. This event led Iruka to decide to promote Naruko to a Genin. "I see. Very well then. You're dismissed, Iruka. Make sure you go straight to the hospital and get those injuries checked," the third Hokage ordered. "Yes, Lord Hokage," Iruka replied, bowing before following the Hokage's instructions. Once Iruka left, the third Hokage activated the security seals in the office, ensuring that his conversation with Naruko would remain private. "Now, Naruko, how did you come across the fourth Hokage's jutsu?" he asked directly. "How did you know about that, old man?" Naruko asked, shocked by the question. "I saw you perform the jutsu to save Iruka. Fortunately, Mizuki blinked, or I would have heard from Anbu headquarters by now. So, tell me, Naruko, how did you learn the Flying Raijin jutsu, and how did you come across it in the first place?" the Hokage asked, his curiosity piqued.
"Well, I kind of stumbled across the fourth Hokage's house the day I painted you in pink, and it was about to rain. When I noticed whose house it was, I planned on leaving, but then I saw a loose brick in the fireplace. When I moved it, I found a scroll. I don't know why, but I took it. When I saw the jutsu, I decided I wanted to master it. It took me about a year," Naruko explained. The third Hokage nodded thoughtfully. He knew the fourth Hokage was a master of seals, and that many people, including enemies, had searched his home.
It made sense that the fourth would hide something important in a place so obvious that no one would expect it. Well, that explains a lot. He was always considered a genius. Hey. So, why haven't you told anyone about this? The third Hokage asked, genuinely curious. Well, I thought I'd get in a lot of trouble if anyone knew I was even in his house. I figured it would be even worse if they found out I knew one of his jutsu. I panicked when Hinata found out. I thought she'd tell someone, Naruko confessed, but she was cut off before she could continue. Wait, how did Hinata figure out you knew this jutsu? And when did she find out? The Hokage asked, a little surprised. Well, she told me it was because of her Byakugan or something like that, Naruko replied. When did she find out? The Hokage pressed. About 8 months ago. The day after I mastered it, Naruko explained. I can hardly believe it. Beat by an 11-year-old girl at the time, finding out such a secret about Naruko. I suppose I shouldn't be too surprised, though, she follows you nearly every day, the Hokage said, shaking his head in amusement. Tell me, Naruko, do you plan on telling anyone else? What? Are you crazy, old man? Why would I tell anyone? Naruko asked, astonished by the suggestion. Well, for one thing, I think it would be best if your teammates and your Jounin sensei knew. That way, they'll know just what you're capable of and can better plan for dangerous situations, the third Hokage explained. I guess that makes sense. But I don't want to tell anyone I don't trust yet. That's mostly why I didn't tell anyone in the first place, Naruko replied thoughtfully. So, you trust Hinata, then? The Hokage asked with a knowing look. Well, yeah, I mean, she knew for months before she asked me the same thing you did, old man, Naruko answered. I see. Well, then you're dismissed now. I will leave the judgment up to you when you trust your teammates enough to tell them about your secret jutsu. But I tell you this, trust is best built from the beginning. You may go now, the third Hokage said, just before deactivating the security seals in his office. All right, see you later, old man, Naruko said as she left. The next day, Naruko was sitting in front of the third Hokage after her ninja registration photo was taken. Naruko had on white makeup with various red markings on her face and hands. The third Hokage thought she looked more like a performer than a ninja. Take it again, was all the third said. What? Why? Naruko asked. This is so you can be identified as a ninja, not someone performing at a circus. Look, you can't even tell who it is. And where is your headband? He explained and asked. Oh, I don't want to mess it up before orientation, Naruko answered. Fine, but you still have to retake the picture for your ninja registration. Fine, Naruko said. But just one more thing. The third gave a confused look. Sexy jutsu, she said, which caused the third Hokage to react with a startled expression. That's the sexy jutsu you say? Very tricky, said the third, as he recovered. Just then, the door slid open, and in came a little kid with what looked like underwear on his head and a spiky ponytail sticking out. He wore a yellow shirt and a very long blue scarf. Old man, I challenge you. I'm going to defeat you and become the fifth Hokage. Arg, he yelled before he tripped over his own feet. My grandson. Will he ever learn? Thought Hiruzen. Who is that? Thought Naruko. Oh, where could he have gone this time? Asked a man to himself as he came running down the hall, looking in every room. He wore the standard leaf jounin outfit, minus the flak jacket. He also wore dark sunglasses, and his headband in a bandana style. As the kid got up, believing that someone had tripped him, he looked around for the culprit. He spotted Naruko, knowing that it couldn't have been his grandfather. Aha, it was you who tripped me, wasn't it? The kid said as he got in Naruko's face. You tripped over your own feet, you dork. Naruko countered, as she grabbed the kid by the scarf. Just then, the man who was running down the hall came in after hearing the commotion, and the first thing he saw was Naruko holding the child he was looking for by the scarf. Gasped the Nine Tails. Of course, she is the worst kind of troublemaker there is, the man thought. You there? Unhand the honorable grandson Konohamaru this instant. He is the grandson of the third Hokage. The man said. Ha, the old man's grandson? Naruko said to herself. HMPF, he's just like the rest. Won't do anything now that he knows who I am, the kid, now identified as Konohamaru, thought. What's wrong, afraid that I'm the third Hokage's grandson? Konohamaru said, believing Naruko wouldn't do anything to him now. I don't care if he's the third Hokage's grandson, pal, believe it, Naruko said, as she lightly tapped Konohamaru on the head. This startled the mysterious man, who almost fell into a fit of hysteria. A few minutes later, Naruko had left the room. Konohamaru was receiving a lecture from his tutor, who was identified as Ebisu. Now listen, honorable grandson, you shouldn't pick a fight with that girl. She is way beyond you, even though she deserves it. Now, the best and quickest way to becoming Hokage is to listen to me. At this point, Ebisu looked away from Konohamaru. I am your only shortcut, so therefore you should listen to me. Ah. Where did he go? Ebisu asked, as he looked back towards Konohamaru, only to find him gone. I believe he followed after Naruko, though I don't know where, the third informed him. He is with Naruko? That's a disaster, Ebisu yelled out in panic. He then left in order to find Konohamaru. Sigh, how did he turn out like this? Anyway, what am I going to do about Konohamaru? That was his 20th sneak attack today, and being around Naruko almost guarantees that this will only make it worse. Naruko wouldn't teach him anything too dangerous, would she? Thought the third, after Ebisu left the room. Meanwhile, Ebisu was looking for Konohamaru, worried about what kind of mischief Naruko might be getting up to with Konohamaru. Hey, I know you're following me, said Naruko, who easily noticed Konohamaru hiding behind a horizontal fence camo tarp with his hair sticking out the top. That's so obvious, it's almost funny. HN. So you saw through my disguise? You're good, said Konohamaru as he came from behind the tarp. Konohamaru walked up to Naruko, pointed at her, and said, all right, I'll be your apprentice, and you'll be my master. Huh? Naruko looked at him as if he were crazy. Come on, boss. Boss? Yeah, boss. Boss, 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 boss. I gotta admit, I like the sound of that, Naruko said. Yeah, and you just gotta teach me that sexy jutsu you used on Grandpa Hokage. Please, 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 Konohamaru begged. Alright then, follow me, Naruko said, heading to an empty training ground. Alright, Konohamaru said, following Naruko. The third Hokage stood atop his tower, gazing at the Hokage faces when Iruka arrived. Lord Hokage, has Naruko updated her ninja registration photo yet? Iruka asked. Yes, replied the third. I spoke with Naruko last night at Ichiraku's and gave her some advice about how her life as a ninja would be different from now on. But all she seemed to care about was becoming stronger than all the previous Hokage and earning everyone's recognition, Iruka shared, smiling. Naruko's dream may be difficult to achieve, said the third. Sir? Iruka asked, confused by the comment. 12 years ago, when I made the decree that no one was to mention the 9 tails inside Naruko, I wanted to give her a chance. The people who fought the beast know the truth, but most of them were severely punished. I decided that children Naruko's age would not be told about the 9 tails, to give her a chance to live her life. Unfortunately, many in the older generation still harbor fear and hate toward Naruko because of the 9 tails. Some even believe she is the 9 tails in disguise. The 4th Hokage meant for Naruko to be seen as a hero, explained the third. A hero? Iruka asked. Yes. It was the final wish of the 4th Hokage before he sealed the beast away. But due to the hatred and fear from the older generation, their feelings have passed down to their children as well. Do you know what the ancients said long ago, Iruka? They said that when someone is despised to the point of being shunned, that person can see it in the eyes of others, the third concluded. My grandfather named me Konohamaru, after the ancient name of the village. It's easy to remember, but when people look at me, they don't see Konohamaru. They only see the honorable grandson of the 3rd Hokage. No one knows who I really am. That's why I have to become Hokage, so people will stop calling me that, Konohamaru explained. Who would accept a kid like you as Hokage? No chance. Naruko started to say before being interrupted. There you are, Konohamaru, said Ebisu, appearing on a tree branch in front of Konohamaru and Naruko. Ebisu-sensei, Konohamaru muttered, not expecting to see his tutor so soon. Ebisu dropped down and approached Konohamaru. Now, Konohamaru, come with me. We must continue your training. No. I'm going to be Hokage someday, and I don't need you, Konohamaru shouted. Ebisu halted. Konohamaru, being Hokage means being the best. You won't get there if you keep hanging around someone like her, Ebisu said, glaring at Naruko. Those eyes. It's so frustrating when people look at me like that, Naruko thought, staring back at Ebisu. To become Hokage, one must master over 1,000 jutsu. You don't even know a single jutsu yet, so come with me and I'll show you the way to becoming Hokage. Ebisu finished. That comment annoyed Naruko, as she didn't believe in shortcuts to greatness. I do know a jutsu. Konohamaru proclaimed, surprising Ebisu. Take this. Sexy jutsu. Poof, hi there, do you like my jutsu? Konohamaru asked, transformed into a young woman. Poof, hey, why didn't it affect him? Konohamaru asked, puzzled, when Ebisu showed no reaction. What kind of inappropriate jutsu is that? I am a gentleman. Such a jutsu will never work on me, Ebisu declared loudly. As Ebisu tried to push Konohamaru away by grabbing his scarf, Naruko felt irritated that her own creation had been insulted. She decided it was time for some payback. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruko called out, summoning 20 clones. Whoa, Konohamaru exclaimed, never having seen so many clones at once. Ebisu stopped, hearing the jutsu and looking around. Humph, so it's true, you can use the Shadow Clone Jutsu. But I'm not as easy as Mizuki, Ebisu said, stepping into the middle of the clones, prepared for a challenge. Transform, Naruko shouted. As the smoke cleared, 21 transformed female versions of Naruko with pigtails appeared. They immediately surrounded Ebisu. He was sent flying back with a massive nosebleed. Poof ha! Take that. Harem Jutsu. Naruko grinned, feeling satisfied with her prank. Meanwhile, the third Hokage watched from his crystal ball, smiling at the scene before him. I just wish she wouldn't use that harem jutsu. He thought. As I was saying, there's no shortcut to becoming Hokage. But you're going to have to defeat me before you can do that, Naruko said with a wide smile directed at Konohamaru. Konohamaru, still a bit annoyed at the lecture, responded, ha! As if I need someone like you lecturing me. I'm not going to be your apprentice anymore. Fine by me, I don't have time for you anyway. Starting tomorrow, I'm officially a ninja. See you around, Konohamaru, Naruko replied as she began to walk away from the training ground. Konohamaru, pleased that Naruko had finally called him by his name, saluted her. She raised her hand in acknowledgement, continuing on her way. The third Hokage looked on, still smiling at the scene, though he couldn't help but think to himself, she really is a handful. The next morning at orientation, Naruko was grinning widely while her head rested on her crossed arms. Hey, Naruko, what are you doing here? This is for graduates only, not dropouts, asked Shikamaru, noticing that Naruko was there after failing the graduation exam. Open your eyes, Shikamaru, I'm wearing the official headband, Naruko replied, sitting up and pointing to the headband Iruka had given her. Shikamaru was surprised to see the headband on Naruko's forehead. Although he knew she had failed, he figured it was too much effort to ask how she had made it. So, he decided to let it be. Just then, Ino and Sakura burst into the room, arguing over who had arrived first. Naruko had taken a break from trying to get Sakura's attention for a while now, though Sakura hadn't noticed. Naruko didn't feel the same about Sakura anymore after getting to know Hinata better. As far as Naruko could tell, Hinata was a lot kinder than Sakura. Although Naruko was still unaware of Hinata's feelings, she thought she might actually like Hinata now. But there was something that made Naruko hesitate. Hinata was from a prestigious clan, almost like royalty, compared to Naruko. So even if Hinata might like her, they would have to keep it a secret. Naruko wasn't sure if Hinata would even be interested, but she wanted to find out. She was afraid that Hinata might end up disliking her because of the nine-tailed fox sealed inside her. That's why Naruko figured it would be best to tell Hinata up front, just in case. If Hinata could accept it, they'd have to keep their relationship private. Naruko had a plan, but she doubted it would go that far. In the middle of Naruko's thoughts, Sakura came up to her and shouted, "Move it, I want to sit next to Sasuke." Sakura pushed Naruko out of the way. Naruko simply stood up and moved to a different seat, which nobody seemed to notice except Hinata. Soon after, Iruka entered the classroom and called for everyone's attention. Good morning, class. Today, you're all officially ninjas. From now on, you'll be divided into 3-person squads, each led by your assigned Jounin sensei. Let's begin, Iruka said, starting to call out the squad assignments. The class remained uninterested until they heard their names. Eventually, Iruka reached Squad 7. Squad 7, Naruko Uzumaki, Sakura Haruno, and Sasuke Uchiha. Led by Kakashi Hatake, Iruka announced. Sakura cheered, and Naruko groaned at the thought of being teamed up with the brooding Sasuke. Meanwhile, Hinata was disappointed that she wasn't on the same squad as Naruko. Squad 8, Hinata Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka, and Shino Aburame. Led by Kurenai Yuhi, Iruka continued. Squad 9 is still in rotation. Squad 10, Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, and Choji Akamiki. Led by Asuma Sarutobi. That's all. Iruka finished reading the team assignments. There were a few complaints in the room, mostly from girls upset that they weren't on the same team as Sasuke. Iruka-sensei, why does someone as great as me have to be on the same team as Sasuke? Naruko asked. Sasuke had the highest scores, so to balance the teams, we paired the top student with the student who struggled the most. And that would be you, Naruko, Iruka explained. Just don't get in my way, Sasuke said coldly. He had dark blue hair with 2 bangs framing his face and wore a blue shirt with a white and red fan on the back, tan shorts, and sleeves covering his forearms. Meanwhile, the Jounin were gathered in the 3rd Hokage's office, looking into the crystal ball on the desk. A few hours later, after the break following the team announcements, Naruko was getting frustrated. Ugh. Why is our sensei the only one who's late? Even Iruka-sensei has left, Naruko said. So, she decided to pull a prank. Naruko grabbed a chalkboard eraser and wedged it between the door frame and the door. Naruko, what are you doing? Sakura asked. This is what he gets for being late, ha. Naruko replied. Sighing, Sakura added, well, I had nothing to do with it if he asks. I love stuff like this. Inner Sakura cheered in her mind. Our sensei is a jounin. Do you really think he'll fall for something like that? Sasuke asked, uninterested. Just then, the door opened, and the eraser fell right onto the jounin's head. He was wearing the standard leaf uniform, with his headband covering his left eye, metal-plated gloves, and gravity-defying silver hair. Ah ha 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 ha. Got you good, Naruko laughed. I'm sorry, sensei. I told him not to do it, Sakura said, while also thinking, yes. Direct hit. This is really a jounin? He seems so unreliable, Sasuke thought. The jounin picked up the eraser and said, At first glance, I have to say you all seem like a bunch of interesting people. That made all 3 give him annoyed glares. Meet me on the roof, he added. Once they were all on the roof of the academy, the jounin began the first team meeting. I'd like you all to introduce yourselves. Introduce ourselves? Sakura asked, confused. How are we supposed to do that? Well, just tell us your name, what you like, what you dislike, your hobbies, and your dreams for the future, the jounin explained. Why don't you show us how it's done? Naruko challenged. Me? Alright, the jounin said. My name is Kakashi Hatake. As for things I like and dislike, I don't really feel like sharing. I have lots of hobbies. As for my dream, I've never really thought about it. Sakura glanced at Naruko and Sasuke, so all we got was his name? How boring. Alright, you next, Kakashi said, pointing to Naruko. I'm Naruko Uzumaki. I like instant ramen, especially from Ichiraku's ramen. I dislike waiting 3 minutes after adding the water to the instant ramen. My hobby is training. My dream is to become the greatest Hokage so that everyone will respect me and treat me like I matter, Naruko introduced herself confidently. She's grown in an interesting way, Kakashi thought. Okay, your turn, he said, pointing to Sakura. Oh, me? I'm Sakura Haruno. Well, the person I like is. She glanced at Sasuke, my hobbies are. And my dream for the future is Sakura squealed as she stared at Sasuke. Oh boy, girls her age are more interested in boys than in ninja training, Kakashi thought. Okay, Sasuke, you're up. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I hate many things, but there's almost nothing I like. I don't have any hobbies. My dream is something I'll make a reality. I'm going to restore my clan and destroy a certain someone, Sasuke declared coldly. As I thought, Kakashi thought to himself. Well, tomorrow we'll begin our first exercise as a team at Training Ground 7, he said. Hey, sensei. What kind of exercise will it be? Naruko asked. HNHNHNHNHNHNH, Kakashi chuckled. What's so funny? That was a normal question, Sakura said. It's funny because if I told you, you're not going to like it, Kakashi explained. Huh? Naruko and Sakura both asked at the same time. It's a survival exercise, Kakashi said with a smile. Dear YouTube family. That's all for today. If you enjoyed the content, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more exciting updates. Love you all. Stay safe and take care. With gratitude. 6 Path Weeb.